was expecting the reverse. I thought we'd get Beishang go for the Olaf because Kanavi hasn't played the Pantheon, and although I'm sure he can, it's more so just the style of jungle that Kanavi plays doesn't really lend itself to it. However, it looks like we're just going to go with Yagao going back towards this Azir. I'm a fan of it. I think it works great at the moment. It does well against a lot of the mages that we're seeing just blind picked into the mid lane. And if you're playing a lot of these short range compositions, which are pretty much your standard meta, Azir does really well against them.
Yep, and I mean, let's be honest, Yagao looked amazing on Azir last game. The streamer shuffles were beautiful. Kanavi gonna go for this Olaf. That was what Beishang was playing last time around. So we'll see how Kanavi will fare on the pick. But missing, grabs himself the Leona. Kind of like the Gragas, except you can't accidentally knock Renekton into your own team. So I like that one. And Shanks continues his one trickdom with the Orianna.
Yeah, I would have preferred to see a move away from this Orianna. We just saw in the last game how much he struggled with the Azir, couldn't really get any priority in that mid lane, and it meant that Beishang was limited in his opportunities to play through that mid jungle. So again, we're going to see Kanavi have that advantage, and if you're looking towards the spot side, Rell does great against Leona. Like, you're able to steal away a whole bunch of stats. We were actually talking to Medic the other day. He'd done the maths. If you auto-attack a Leona at level 3 with her W up, and then you attack the AD carry, you can get 400 gold worth of stats as Rell off of your passive, which is nutty.
It's like a mini Ornn, but way before level 13.
Yeah.
And very temporarily. Anyway, let's look at the bans that are coming up through. The Camille, once again, respect band from Breathe. What do you expect WE to do here, Dags?
I assume for WE, it's trying to pinch that top lane pool. As you can already see, JDG are going to try and go for it. I think you're already looking at a potential Gnar ban, or Gnar pick, sorry, coming in here for JDG with the Camille taken off the board. Probably go towards something, I was going to say like the Jace, but they're happy to actually just try and pinch this AD carry pool even further, trying to call you out saying, hey, we've got first pick here as JDG. We can actually just pick up something like the Zion this rotation, bunch of self-peel, does great in these team fights, which JDG are kind of setting up for, so why try and make it any different?
We are going to see 3 different AD carries banned out in the second rotation. There were already 2 banned out in the first rotation of bans. So we have 5 AD carry bans, which means we now have to see how deep these champion pools go. The Jhin and the Misfortune were 2 picks that used to be real popular a little while back. Seraphine is up. You could go MF Seraphine here.
You could. I just don't know if I like with the style of composition that WE are going for. I think I prefer to see them go.
What am I talking about?
You could definitely look towards something like the Xayah here. I mean, the problem that I have with the Jhin being paired with Rell is that, like, you're all in on a lot of bursts. The Jhin, and that works very well with Ren, but it's heavily reliant on that 4th shot. If you're not, it's a little bit easier for the Missing and Jiumeng to disengage, get away from that Rell, and then be able to turn that damage around on the bottom side. But we'll have to see if that's what they decide to go with here. Okay. I'd be down for the Vayne. Yeah. I think the Vayne is actually great here. So Jhin can do a lot of work into the Vayne in the early stages where he's able to push that wave very aggressively, start to chip away at the turret. But it's not like you're really going to be able to get that all-in kill with the Jhin and Rell, just because you can get that condemn, stop the Rell engage, and then she kind of awkwardly waddles herself away in shame. So I think on WE's side, you set up for a strong bot lane here. Jiumeng is a great Vayne player, and it now gives you a lot of damage in these team fights as well to deal with something like the Olaf and this Gragas. They just do have to be careful again of the range on JDG's side, because when you look at the Azir and that Jhin W with the curtain call, it's not exactly like Vayne is set up to get on top of these guys.
Yeah, it's down to Jiumeng to strut his stuff a little bit here now. Jiumeng is certainly a player that we've seen play Vayne in the past, but not this split. This is the first game of Vayne they'll be playing this split, but he's the kind of guy that he likes to show off a little bit. We know Jiumeng for sometimes going a bit too deep and making some plays that could be referred to as Vayne spotting. So just keep your eyes on that across the course of this one. Holistically though, Dagda, how are we feeling about these compositions? Because the Azir is still there for JDG, but without the Varus, it doesn't feel as similar to game 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of similar. You still have that long-range poke that's coming through with the Azir, and also still with the Jhin. You've got the tanks that are kind of beefing up your front line. Olaf and Udi are similar both. The Gragas, again, kind of playing that front line tank/damage dealer. So JDG are kind of going back to what they did in game 1, and I like it up against what we're seeing coming out from WE. A lot of WE's lineup relies on Beishang and Missing getting these big engages, specifically Beishang trying to find these ultimates into the backline to disrupt that long range poke. But if you're in the pit as Beishang and you're trying to steal away a dragon, you don't have the opportunity to go for these engages.
And stealing away dragons was the story of game number 1 as well. Beishang versus Kanavi, the usurper versus the Spring King of last year. We'll see if Beishang has what it takes, because he didn't quite work out in game number 1. WE over on our blue side here as we start off game number 2 between them and JDG. The Vayne pick in the bottom lane. We got the Pantheon jungle. There are certainly power picks on the side of WE, but JDG, they're coming in with a bit of momentum here.
Yeah, and I think they're going to try to snowball that momentum, especially in this game through Kanavi. Because when I look at, a Jhin on this bottom side against Vayne, I'm like, cool, I got pushed there. I got pushed in mid lane with this Azir. That's some easy dragon takes for me on the side of JDG. So expect Kanavi to go for this very quick full clear into a reset and pretty much a 530 beyond that dragon trying to take it for himself. And I honestly, if you're JDG, that's the best way to start snowballing this game and getting this control on the map. If you have WE who are the short range composition who have got to try and contest you at these dragons, we saw the results in that last game.
Yeah, it becomes incredibly difficult for them to find a way in. This time, though, the difference is with a Leona and a Pantheon, as you rightly said before we went to the bumper, they have ways of brute forcing a fight, right? Pantheon just flies into the back line. Leona can follow up on that as well. So it's a bit easier for WE to force the issue. Big question is just, will their carries be there in time? Last game, Shanks took a long time to get towards those 2 items. We've got a Vayne as well for Jiumeng, which we know notorious for being weak in the early game, exceptionally strong in the late game.
And I want to see how Beishang is going to try and set up WE, because if they get a lead, it becomes a hell of a lot easier to operate their game plan. And I expect on Beishang's side, he'll be looking towards this top side. If you can try and set up some sort of play onto Zoom, kill him off, burn that early TP, then you can look to have Breathe come in on this bottom side. And it's kind of been the bread and butter more so from WE last year, which was getting Morgan into this bottom side to set up these plays. But if Loken and LvMao are consistently pushing, like you can see here, setting up for some sort of 4-man, 5-man play in the bottom lane is a definite go button for WE.
And if you think back to last year, that's kind of trademark WE, right? When you think back to the squad that had Morgan in the top lane and had Teach on our mid, the 4-man, 5-man play bot was literally everything that WE did. If it worked, they won the game. If it didn't work, they lost the game. That was kind of just the way that WE was in 2020. They moved away from that this year, having stronger solo laners. But it's definitely something that these guys have in the playbook.
Well, we'll have to see if they are going to go for that. You can already look towards this top side. Breathe shoving in. You got Beishang nice and healthy on this top side. Zoom a little bit low. And it looks like top lane is the go for Beishang.
Beishang wants to get Breathe snowballing. And I can understand why with the Renekton. If we're talking about dragon fights, he's the one to go for. Beishang's here. Zoom already flashed. The belly bop is beautiful. Breathe flashes on in. It's not going to be enough. Does he have any damage? Q's coming up, but Beishang finishes the kill with the Comet Spear.
I'd actually like to see Beishang push this in with Breathe, though. I want them to keep this TP for Breathe. Try and use it on that bottom lane. Now, Breathe clears it out fast enough. It's not going to be too much, but you'll have that cannon wave coming up next as well. That should slow down Zoom from crashing this wave and allow Breathe to hold on to this teleport.
Yeah, well, actually, Breathe's just going to commit the teleport. He's saying, you know what? I'm not that bothered about trying to enact things on the bottom side. He's playing for his own lane. I don't hate that from Breathe. Like, when we think about where the strengths lie with this WE squad, Breathe is definitely one of the guys that you look towards. So maybe playing for himself could be the answer.
I agree. I just don't think the breathe is going to be that big in this game, especially when you look at the champions that are on the JDG side. Very far range with Yagao and Loken. It means that you're not really having the best of time as a Renekton. Plus, you've got a bunch of peel that comes in with LvMao and from Zoom. So it's pretty tough for Breed to have a super strong game. And although it's nice that you're getting them a lead in the top side, they need to actually bring that lead elsewhere on the map.
Zoom is doing his best to try and freeze this wave, knocking the minions back, holding it close to his tower. Breathe might be able to just clear this wave, though, when his minions do arrive. But the positioning is certainly awkward for Breathe to have to deal with. And this is one of the things that we always expect out of Zoom, right? He is one of the best individual laners in the entire LPL. Not even just in top lane, just across the board. He's just such an exceptional player.
Kanavi is on this bottom side. We talked about these early dragons being a potential go or win condition for JDG, and I wasn't certain there if WE were going to try and rush it. Shanks actually had a brief window of controlling that mid lane, but it looks like Kanavi just waited for the TP to come back in from Yagao. So early dragon picked up, and again, this is just going to continue until WE can try and go for some big play.
Speaking of big plays,
Damn.
It's onto the top side. Zoom, see you later, buddy. And now they get some turret plates to work with as well. The Demolish comes on through. Breathe barely survived again, but survive he did. Now towards the bottom side as JDG want to answer. Jiumeng and Missing underneath the tower, trying to get some stuns onto LvMao. Jiumeng has his flash and his heal available. Kanavi is low. He's underneath the tower. One more shot does go through. Missing gets the kill. 1 for 1 here as Loken and LvMao still surviving. It's a massive amount of minions, though, that Jiumeng will miss here.
That's the big one. It's the just sheer amount of gold and experience that is being taken out of the hands of this Vayne. Means JDG's bot lane are going to be in great shape. You got to kind of keep your eye on Missing, though, because I wasn't sure how much he wanted to tank up that shot.
Yeah, I don't know if he can just tank these guys forever like he's pretending, but we'll back away in the end. Let's take another look as Kanavi perhaps went a little too early.
It did go a little bit early, but it was more so because LvMao got knocked away by the Condemned. So they weren't actually able to get that flash toss over the shoulder that you get from the Ferromancy. Meant that they got enough damage on towards Kanavi. So nice job from Jiumeng to at least turn that one around and get one back in their favor. Unfortunately, though, that kill did go to Missing. So again, exponential lead coming in for Loken in that bottom side of the map. And they can continue to go with this. As we were saying, you're going to have to rely on like Breathe coming in with these TPs and on a decent flank as well to try and break JDG's control over this mid and bot side of the map and over these dragons.
Missing has scanned, so he knows that LvMao and Kanavi are going to be here trying to fight for the Scuttle Crab, but they're just setting this up for Beishang, who's moving over. Will be able to remove the shield. Has his smite if he needs it, but I think they're going to just be able to take this one for free. JDG obviously got the first Drake a moment ago. The next Drake will be coming up in 3 minutes. And Beishang maybe just wants to fight here. Missing's moving over as well. This would be a 3v3 if they wanted to go for it. I feel like that definitely favors WE, though, because Beishang is pretty huge right now.
Yeah, they're trying to move over towards this Rift Herald. You can see that Jiumeng actually had a bit of a push on that bottom side, unlocking Missing on this bottom lane, trying to use the advantage Breathe has to get that Rift Herald. And if I'm Beishang, then I just plonk that bot lane. I try and get some of this Missing gold back in towards the hands of Jiumeng.
Well, Kanavi is trying to check the red buff, but Breathe and Beishang, they're best mates this game. They have been working together all game long. Beishang's like, look, I ganked your lane twice now, mate. Come and help me get this red buff. You owe me one. And Breathe is, he's an honorable friend. He's willing to make that sacrifice. So moves over. And now, as you rightly said, they can tick off the checkbox on going for this Herald as well.
And again, I want to see this gold going in towards Jiumeng. Jiumeng is going to be the main carry when we get to these later points, and if he's enabled and able to get onto the character or the champions on JDG side, he's going to be in a fantastic spot. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to see a world where Jiumeng is easily able to get on towards Yagao and Loken, but you gotta hope and pray as WE.
They recommitted to the tower. Missing could be in trouble, but they are out of minions, and Beishang's on Pantheon, so he's got the Herald, and he can fly into this play. If JDG try and force this, they could overstep, but I think they've realized the situation. They know how big Beishang is right now, so they decide, okay, a couple of tower plates and a few minions denied is all we're going to be able to get from this one.
Nice read from JDG. You know there's 3 turret plates on that top side, so if WE were going to try and double down on Breed's lead, you would have seen Beishang just run in top and grab that tower. The fact he hadn't shown means he had to be going towards a recall, would be present on the bottom side, so nice job for them to walk away from that. Now though, we need to see if Beishang can actually use this ultimate to get advantages, because right now, although we're looking at a lead for WE with about a 2,000 gold, it is on this Renekton in the top side, it's on this Pantheon, and when we hit to the mid game, they're not going to be doing quite as well as you'd hope in these fights against JDG.
That said, Gordring has been finished for Beishang, so he's definitely big. That is for sure. Beishang in the next couple of minutes will be able to kind of 1v9, but whether or not the rest of the team can back him up in those kind of situations is going to really matter.
And if Beishang does
denied
get
a
big
recall
enough,
here.
If Beishang does get big enough, you kind of unlocked another win condition, I'll say, for WE, where you can just stick Beishang off in the side lane, have him use that ultimate to try and be a man drop, and go for this 1-3-1 style.
Beishang carry is like it's like the demo disc PS1 Easter egg, where it's like if you go through the right wall, you get to do level 2 as well as level 1 and your PS1 demo. It's beautiful. Beishang definitely capable of being that carry as well. Drake's come up though, Dagda. I feel like it's JDG. You just got to give this one over.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that we don't have JDG fighting a little bit more for this. They have Yagao with the strong push mid. Loken and LvMao at least are able to play pretty heavily around this bottom side. This just feels like an odd timing for a lot of the resets to be coming through. And as you can see, Loken and LvMao, they're hiding in this bush, but Jiumeng doesn't need to push up aggressively here.
Yeah, but it is Jiumeng, so he might do it anyway. He's gonna respect it. He backs away. Yeah, I mean, the thing about the timing, though, is you've got a TP on Breathe. He's finished a Gore Drinker. You got Beishang on the scene. He's finished a Gore Drinker. There certainly weren't any mythics on JDG. So, timing aside, I feel like maybe this is just JDG going, look, it's 11.2. They've got Gore Drinkers. I'm not interested.
I know, but they did have Yagao already TP in. You had Loken and LvMao that were there. You don't even have to bring your team across. You can just have this lane stay there in their lanes and just have Kanavi finish it off. It felt like a bit of an odd time from Kanavi. Either way, though, WE do pick it up, and Kanavi's trying to see if he can get onto Beishang.
I want to go for the Pantheon, but this is not a fight that you win, JDG. In they go, but he's completely invincible. The Gordring keeps him alive till the last second. He's still surviving, missing, blocking the shots, as in everybody's come one by one. And JDG in absolute shambles. Breathe wants an AD carry. There's a bit of a cherry on top of the play, but I think Loken will walk away with this one. He's just going to get a call to Meek, and Breathe has to settle for a minion wave.
Poosa. I will not mauled. I will not get angry today.
Be zen,
for
Dagda,
JDG,
be zen.
That was real stupid. You have no control over this bottom side jungle. You've got LvMao and Kanavi, who, great, are moving in, but you already had Jiumeng and Missing who were in position. You have the TP coming in from Breathe. And if you're not going to fight for the dragon, why the hell are you fighting over a red buff?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a head scratcher. I feel like JDG, last year, they were the smartest team in the LPL. This year, they've become Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Where some games, like game number 1 of this series, it looks amazing. Great stuff. But, wait, hang on. Did Yagao just allow his tower to fall to the minions?
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Why?
Yeah, he did, Munch. Yeah, he did.
What logic could there possibly be?
So I think what he's thinking is, if I let them clear the full way to my inhibitor really quickly, I can get a bunch of extra gold off these super creeps. You know, that's where I can look to snowball my lead.
I don't know what's happening anymore, Dagda. I'm sure that the Twitter analysts are furious at me right now because there's some obscure reasoning to let your tower be the first tower of the game to be taken. I guess the local gold wasn't there for anyone. But I don't know, man. I feel like protecting your tower is just... That's League of Legends 101.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not certain. I'll let the replay speak for itself when I go and watch it later. But right now, it's a bit of a head scratcher. It does give WE, though, this opportunity. Because now, okay, mid tower is gone. Shove in super far. You've got Rift Herald about to spawn in about 30 seconds. You can go up towards this top side and try and pick that up for yourselves. But it actually looks like what they're trying to do is get a play, or at least allow Jiumeng and Missing to shove in this bottom side so they can also rotate up towards this objective.
And I want to give a little bit of context on how I feel like we've kind of been ragging on JDG a bit in this series. JDG obviously 1-0 up in this series. The reason we've been ragging on them is, if you haven't watched LPL for a while, this is the 2020 Spring Champions, but also second place in Summer. This team had 10 finals games against top esports in 2020. This was comfortably in the conversation as best team of the year last year, and the comparison to this year is just painful, and we're seeing that in front of our eyes as Zoom is trying to find a 1v1 with Breathe, but Beishang is here. Not going to commit anything, though, to try and follow up on the kill. So it goes down to the bottom side, so at least Loken's finding some advantages in the bot lane.
And also, just to add on to your point, like, they're in 9th place right now, but none of their wins have been particularly convincing. And even though we're kind of looking at, oh, well, they're 9th and 3-3, like, this is a team, as you said, that was leading that new generation conversation. Yeah, that we're like, hey, it's top esports and JDG. These are the top teams in the LPL. These are the teams to watch out for. The smartest team in the LPL. But right now, this is just night and day. WE are running them around the map. You've got this Rift Tower for Beishang completely uncontested. And yeah, you've got Dragon that's going to spawn in 10 seconds, but look at where WE are coming. They will still be here in time, even if JDG try and start this up.
Yeah, Drake, the next target for either team here. And obviously, both teams got one to start the game off, so this it's not going to be sole point or anything like that, but it sets teams up to get towards that objective. Jiumeng's in the mid lane trying to push that wave out, but certainly not priority here, as Beishang doesn't have flash. He's not going to be able to get in this pit in time. I think this just goes to JDG at this stage.
They need the flank.
So let's come in. Here we go. Flying in from the skies. Beishang rooted, though, and JDG maybe want this team fight. They're certainly not backing away for now. And it looks like they walk away with the Drake.
Yeah, WE were trying to see if they could find an opportunity for Beishang or even Breed to get into a flank, try and pincer JDG, but they're not able to do so. Now, they do have inner track on towards this mid lane, who just gets out. But looks like with everyone over JDG here, they should be able to defend this.
Yeah, just about keeping the tower alive for now. But a stiff breeze will knock that over next time around when WE want to look towards that mid lane. But we are heading towards the 20-minute mark, and there is a Vayne on the side of WE. If WE can maintain map control, there's a very real possibility of Baron rushes. Honestly, on either side, because there's an Azir for JDG as well. Like, Baron control is actually going to be really important over the next few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you got Azir with Leandri's Anguish as well, Kraken Slayer for Vayne. They do these objectives insanely fast. It really does come down to map setup, though, and you can see it there. WE, although they were in position to try and threaten, they understand correctly that if we come in front to back against JDG's composition, we don't stand a chance. We got an Emperor's Divide that we won't be able to get over. We'll have a Curtain Call that's blasting us in the face. Even the ultimate from Rell, who's just going to be yoinking us away from any carry we do manage to get our claws into. So for WE, the big goal is getting Breathe on a flank, having Beishang deliver himself with the man drop into the backline. And if you don't get that to happen, you got nothing from WE. And even if this Vayne gets really big, even if Shanks is huge, they will not be able to find the fights that they want.
Yeah, and obviously Missing there to try and supplement that hard engage. When the flanks happen, you got to see Missing landing a good ultimate, getting a good CC chain off onto one of the carries, or at least deny any kind of peel from JDG. But certainly, for the time being, WE are kind of okay to play this one slow. When we look at both sides, like, Jhin, quite happy to build up a bunch of items, same for Azir. Orianna and Vayne, certainly not going to be shy on the scaling side, so it doesn't surprise me that much, Dagda, that we are seeing a bit of a slower pace than what we saw in game number 1. Oh no, Breathe. He's face checked, he's got into the unknown territory, and he's been punished for it. The Gordrick are just not enough, but actually Beishang, I told you that these guys were pros, right? Beishang goes in to try and help his top laner. will walk away with his life, but the W misses. He still goes down anyway. Zoom, he's just buying time. He still managed to survive this whole thing. We talked about the 20-minute Baron. It's up in 30 seconds. I don't think that's soon enough.
Now, they'll be fine. JDG are going to walk away with 2 nice picks onto WE. And, I mean, you've got great setup there from the Jhin. You're able to get that damage down. And crucially as well, JDG are actually denying these picks from happening on WE side. Because when you look at JDG, they've been joined at the hip this entire time. I was going to say it before that they actually found that pick. If you look at where they're moving on the map, right now, there is this 4-man squad. How do you try and pick someone off as Beishang? They're trying to even move Breathe in here to see if it can happen, but they're the ones that actually get it turned around against them, and Beishang, too little too late. Breathe has already gone down, and from that, it all gets very, very messy for WE. I think Munch has muted himself, because I can see him talking. But
my bad.
I'm not 100%.
I have it. For some reason, I'm coughing like absolute crazy today, and I forgot to review that one time. I apologize, everyone. I was just saying, what a great ult coming out from Zoom to keep himself alive, make it a super one-sided play in favor of JDG. And now, we have 2 big old objectives coming up, Dagda. Baron already on the map, as we already established. Both teams have incredibly fast Baron takes, but the Mountain Drake, more importantly, coming up in just under a minute. JDG, it'd be sole point for them if they can grab it.
This is going to be, again, a bit difficult for WE to aggress onto. You can see they don't really have deep vision in towards JDG side. They've actually invested a lot of it more towards the Baron rather than this Dragon. And if I'm JDG, you already talked about how quick their Baron take is. Why not just trade that Dragon bot side for full control over this, for this Baron area? Although, as I say that, maybe looking for a pick here.
Let's see, Jiumeng actually rolls forwards towards Loken. He's a madman. Main spotting galore, but he's managed to survive, and he's looking to get some damage out as well. In goes the Viking, though, to try and shut down the Night Hunter. Beishang knocked into the rest of the team, but he's okay with that. In goes missing. In comes the engage. Loken low. The Solar Flare tags him down, but they can't quite finish skill. Breathe can't get in range either. The Shockwave onto the backline, but everybody's surviving on JDG. Now the curtain call to pick off some stragglers. It's going to be 1-for-1, mid for mid. WE, I think, have to back away and lick their wounds.
The WE greed just got too much of them there. They had the pick onto Yagao. They saw their moment of opportunity. There's no Emperor's Divide. There's no one who can try and keep us at bay, but they forgot. You've got Zoom with these casts. You got LvMao with so much peel as well. And even Loken free firing, as you can see, able to get away from the jaws of WE. And now, what could have been a definitive Dragon for WE, shutting down JDG for the next 5 minutes, or even 10 minutes, has now netted JDG the Dragon, and they're on sole point.
I feel like we just saw a Pantheon ult coming through as the replay came up. We've got to fight. I'm more interested in what's happening right now. Here we go. Shanks picked off already. JDG starting to fight off well. Beishang's in trouble. Has the Hysterics. Has a lot of his sustain, but he goes down anyway. Now missing falls. Breathe is alone. Jiumeng chased out by LvMao. Breathe's in the Baron pit. He's in the back of the Baron pit being bullied by the purple worm. Jiumeng knows he can't go anywhere. Breathe. It's on the wrong side of the play right here. Dominus is about to come up. Maybe he can at least stop the Baron play. That's his only objective at this point, but with Flash not available, he's realized this ain't happening. He backs away, although stepping on in. I'm not sure what his plan is. I don't think he's got a plan right now. He's freeballing it, and he has to back away.
And this is so much better from JDG. Like, they are understanding, hey, look, if we just group as this 5-man death ball, there's no way WE are going to be able to set up these plays. And you can see here, okay, there's LvMao and Loken. Yes, they're there, but look at where Yagao is. He's never far from them. And then you start to get these TPs coming in. And even though Beishang is trying to get on towards Loken, great stun from LvMao. There's the Emperor's Divide to separate them. And there's just nothing you can do here as WE.
Yeah, I mean, this is just overextension after overextension from WE. We saw them diving, diving almost a tier 2 in the mid lane. Now we see Beishang brute forcing a fight that realistically there's no follow-up for, and him and his teammates get caught out. Now JDG, they've got a Baron to work with. They're on Mountain Soul Point. JDG could be looking towards a 2-0 right now, Dagda.
And pretty convincing one as well, and we kind of threw up the questions, what happens if we get rid of the Udyr if we're not going to get the similar style of jungle, but Breathe?
The answer is they get a pick onto Breathe. He's rooted and knocked out of the fight. Beishang trying to distract his LvMao, knocks up everybody. The Emperor's Divide comes on through as well. Shanks is still off to the side. He'd need a miracle if a Shockwave was to win this one out because he's the only carry and he's taken down. A double for Loken. He wants to make it 4 though as he blasts his shots on through. But Breathe gets out of range and gets safely into the base. And JDG, once you give them an inch, they will take a 1.5 miles right here. They've got the gold lead. They've got the way into this mid lane. They don't have minions to work with right now, but they might just be able to finish the tower anyway. They don't care. Now onto the inhib they go. It wouldn't surprise me too much if they overpushed, but they are, looks like, going to respect and back away.
And now you've got that dragon in 2 minutes. You have picked up a filthy amount of gold on JDG side between the kills, between the Baron, between all these turrets. Like, they are going to be rich as all hell. And now this escalating issue for WE has gotten completely out of control. They cannot close the gap, they cannot find these picks, and JDG are running away with these team fights. And this is where you can see the desperation from WE. Can we find some way of getting into this backline? But every time, Zoom with the Gragas cast, the Emperor's Divide, as well as LvMao having this fantastic rell performance, is buying so much space for Yagao and Loken, and they are free hitting everywhere.
Yep, the magnets come on through. They've been making the clown posses, the insane clown posses' lives hell for a long old time, and now even WE are confused by how they work. But JDG, very much in control of this game, 4,000 gold ahead right now. And Drake is coming up in 60 seconds time. If JDG gets this Drake, I think that's the point at which we just begin the eulogy for WE, because this was a game that WE needed to prove that they were a top team, that they deserve the top 4 spot in the standings that they have right now. And JDG, maybe they've finally woken up from this spring slumber that we've been seeing.
Well, certainly these compositions have helped, because this long-range comp is doing wonders against WE, and now you can see it again, WE struggling to find any sort of in-way in towards the JDG lineup.
LvMao's going to look for the hard engage because Zoom is behind everyone. In goes Yagao, and it's beautiful with the Emperor's Divide, but Breed's still surviving, and WE still grouped up. They're the first one to get a pick. And now onto Loken as well goes Beishang, but he's not quite tanky enough. Will be taken down. Shockwave onto 2. WE finally finding a fight because Jiumeng is free firing, but he's rooted and taken down. It all looked so good for WE until JDG tore it apart.
That was a almost fight for WE. Zoom had gone for the flank. He wasn't in a position to try and peel for the backline, and Beishang gets in onto Yagao. But with the Zanyas, with the time bought, JDG get the fight, and they'll get the victory.
This is beautiful from JDG. It feels like this team is back on the block. It feels like they are back and fighting for one of those top spots once more. It's a glorious win here for WE. It's the beginning of a very long road for JDG, but a welcome breath of fresh air for JDG fans.
Definitely a little bit of breathing room bought by JDG with this win, because when you're looking to really push up the tables for playoffs, wins against the top teams and other playoff contenders are going to mean a significant amount, especially for a struggling JDG who, with these long-range compositions, just wiped the floor with WE in both games. It was so well orchestrated by the JDG lineup.
Beautiful stuff from JDG, and felt like WE played into their hands a little bit, and that last fight very much felt like a last-ditch effort, right? Which is not uncommon to see in the LPL, where it's like, all right, this game's kind of out of our control. Let's brute force a fight. Let's see what we can do. But it was very well played by JDG to survive that one. Loken especially narrowly getting out of that fight with his life, and then just spins it around with a curtain call and just blasts them all.
And this is where, at least from the perspective of like having JDG enact their game plan, I think this was perfect. Where we saw them go towards the long range compositions, when you start to see like these Olafs coming into play, you're seeing the Pantheons, the Renektons, like you know that this is a squad, and even the Orianna, like you know that this is a squad that needs to get in on top of you to deal the damage. They're not going to be able to poke you from afar. And both times JDG were like, cool, we'll opt towards the Jhin, we'll go towards this Azir, we'll just play the long range. And it means that there's a lot of pressure on WE to close that gap. And when they can't, you see the results. So I think in that respect, kudos to JDG. The problem that I do see, though, is, again, just these weird decision-making. Like, why are you invading as a two-man when you know that 3 members of WE and a TP are going to be able to come in first after you've just lost Dragon? Like, these are the plays that I'm just like, what are you doing? And against teams like Top Esports that are pushing the top of tables, EDG, like, you make these mistakes and you're done for. Like, they're not going to just go into a draft as kind of willy-nilly as WE and just give all this range across. You're going to be on much more even footing. You can't just have this massive compositional advantage. And if you don't have that to fall back on, what happens for JDG?
Yeah, that's the dicey situation, because we saw it in both games as well. In game number 1, it was off the back of the first scuttle, like way overextending for a kill. And then game 2, we saw it over the red buff, right? So definitely a couple of head-scratching moments for JDG. But I don't want to be too critical of JDG right now, because, like, they got themselves a win. They got themselves a 2-0 as well, which I think it's fair to say they needed this. They lost to Top Esports 2-0 in week number 3. They beat Rogue Warriors, but it was like, okay, cool, that's Rogue Warriors. You know, everyone's beating Rogue Warriors. Now getting a comfortable win against the team that was in 4th place in their standings, that feels good. That feels like the beginning of a win streak.
We'll have to see if they can keep this going. I mean, there certainly are some positives to look at. I mean, Yagao's Azir, it's always been amazing for him. It's been like the Zoe and the Azir for this guy. Now we're seeing the Azir and just what he's capable of on this pick. Looks absolutely splendid. I think as well, getting Kanavi on towards the Udyrs and the Olaf certainly fits his style a lot more. And giving him this, hey, go towards dragons, go towards these early game plays, definitely works quite well. And Zoom, as always, absolutely amazing. I love watching Zoom. Zoom is one of my favorite top laners. Just his ability to set up these fights. Last year, we were taking him as the best engaged top laner in the league. And although we're not seeing it too much this split, he's still having magnificent performances on the champions like the Aatrox, and even seeing it again today on the Gragas.
Yeah, I mean, you expect this from Zoom, right? We came in saying, hey, look, here's the silver lining for JDG. It's Zoom at the top side. He's going to be great. And even in game 2, when Beishang repeatedly ganks onto that top side and dives onto Zoom, he still managed to have a great impact in the game. He was still able to set up his team and be not only the front line, but also the engage tool for the team. So really, really good to see Zoom fulfilling his purpose as always and managing to maintain this insane performance. When you know you're a really solid player, when we talk about someone as one of the best top laners in the LPL. Top lane is so stacked in the LPL. The fact that Zoom is in that conversation, despite how poorly JDG have performed so far this split, it's a huge testament to how great he is as a player.
Yeah, certainly. I currently have him in my list at like number 2, just in behind Nuggery. I think despite everything that's going on in JDG, he still looks absolutely splendid. I want to see him now continue this form. You can see, like, even the Renekton in game number 1 of the series was consistently finding these huge moments. He got the MVP. Then on the Gragas this time, although it wasn't the engage, it was just how clever he was with the disengage, consistently getting these body slams to prevent the likes of Breathe getting in, to stop Pantheon for Beishang doing particularly much. And then even if they did manage to get past that defense, he had the cask there as well. Overall, JDG just knew how to play this composition so well. Everyone was on the right page, and they enacted superbly when it came to execution.
Yeah, couple of weird decisions, but generally speaking, we're giving it a thumbs up from the side of JDG. Over on WE, though, I do want to kind of address the elephant in the room, because I think everyone knows I like WE, but we have to be honest with ourselves here.
Can we get the lower third of you molding now? Do we get this?
Well, I'm not molding. I'm crying deep down in my heart. RNG 2-0 them, right? Which is like, okay, RNG was number 1 in the league at the time. Fair enough. That's fine. We give them a pass on that one. Then they go into the matchup against RA. They get 2-0 again, but this time, hey, they've got a substitute mid laner. You know, we've got excuses that we can lean towards. We'll give them a pass on that one as well. Okay, now they're against JDG, who's currently in 9th place and has looked pretty rough in most of their series, and they get 2-0'd. Maybe WE aren't this super team that they are being hyped up to be when they've beaten Rogue Warriors, V5, IG, TT. But, I mean, IG and LNG are in the list. V5 are a pretty good team. It's like, I feel like we see different versions of WE day to day.
Yeah, I think it's more teams understanding how to exploit them, because there's a lot of teams that are just kind of going, hey, if we let WE play their game plan, they'll find these picks, they can get Jiumeng set up, it looks great. But WE is a team that struggled to play around TPs against RNG. It's a team that tends to over chase and over greed for certain plays. And if you're able to exploit that, as we saw against RNG, as we saw in RA, and now we're seeing again against JDG, well, that's going to work out wonderfully for you.
Well, we've got some highlights from our main man in the bottom side. It's Loken, because his Jhin looked fantastic today. The W's coming out across the game were great. Obviously, this dive to start everything off that shut down Jiumeng, but most importantly, denied so much CS from the enemy Vayne.
Yeah, he looked absolutely amazing. And this here is like the power of the Jhin is like, cool, there's my CC, and I'm just going to take pop shots all day here to make sure that I can set up these plays. And again, when you've got so much range to play with here, it's amazing what Jhin is capable of and when the champion is set up to succeed.
I love that as well. He just waltzes past Beishang while he's reloading. He's like, I want to be on this side of the fight now. Just zips on through. But yeah, I think the most important thing was his deadly flourishes were really, really nice to see. He was so on point. There was one towards the end of this fight when he gets chased off into the river. He gets this beautiful little snipe.
Yeah, and again, Loken looking good with the sniper. I mean, we saw the Varus in the last game. Now it's the Jhin this time around. Certainly looking very, very comfortable with these picks. So delighted to see him pick up a victory for himself when it comes to that MVP department.
Yeah, really good damage as well. You can see 25% of the team's damage and a huge gold difference at the end, as you'd expect when you win commandingly like that. But really good to see him getting a bit of I can't think of the word, acknowledgement for his performances on this team recently, because he's certainly not one of the top 80 carries in the entire league, but he is a very necessary part of the JDG win condition. But we have an interview over on the stage, so I'm going to kick it over